Brian from Vance Hines, and thanks for joining me on another Workshop Wednesday. Wife's at a construction site visit, so as you can see, I'm inside because have a daughter, social distance learning here at home, so still have to be present and active parent and make sure she doesn't need anything. Although I'm hoping no technical issues in the next 20 minutes, right? So again, thank you guys for joining me for another Workshop Wednesday live here only on Facebook. We're going to go through a couple things today. So normally on Workshop Wednesday Live, you guys can go ahead and get your questions ready, throw them out there, and I will go ahead and do my best to get them answered. And then on top of that, we'll also go through some questions that were asked on social media channels earlier in the week or last week. So again, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw them out there, and I will get that rolling. Otherwise, we've got a couple special things to talk about today. So this weekend, we've got a couple big events going on for Vance Hines. Number one, we have the King of the Baggers contest up at Laguna Seca Raceway, being hosted by Moto America. So I'm sure you guys have heard about this, but a lot of the industry has gotten basically in touch with drag specialties, and they've put on this contest. We were all building bikes, and we're going to take them and race them at Laguna Seca. We've been kind of trickling out information, little previews of the bike. We showed the air cleaner after the fuel tank the other day. We showed a front view of the bike. And we just put out a newsletter this morning with a bunch more imagery, as well as how to get in contact with that. So it's going to be live here. The practice runs on Facebook on our Vance and Hines channel this Friday at, I believe it is 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Let me go ahead and double check that and make sure that's accurate. If I can pull it up here. Oh, there it is. So yeah, the practice runs will be, 4:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on Vance and Hines Facebook Live. So you can go ahead and check the practice runs there. If you want to watch the full coverage for the entire weekend, as far as the King of the Baggers is concerned, that is Friday and Saturday. You can go to Moto America Plus. I believe that's MotoAmericaPlusLive.com. You can go ahead and sign up there for the whole weekend. It is $9.99, and it's definitely something that I'm going to be taking advantage of so I can watch the races. On top of that, we'll go ahead and give you guys a quickie little preview here if I can. No, it's not letting me do it anymore. Terrible. So I was hoping to show you guys an image from the newsletter this morning. We basically, if you have it, you can take a look at it. It's a full family photo of all the bikes. So the Pro Stock Motorcycle race bike, the American Flat Track race bike, as well as this King of the Baggers race bike. So if you have the newsletter, check it out. It's a really cool one. A lot of new photos. If not, they'll be hitting social media here in a bit. On top of that, we also happen to have NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycles racing this weekend in Houston at the NHRA Spring Nationals. So make sure to go ahead and check that out. You can catch that on NHRA.tv and I believe on Fox Sports 1 typically. So a lot of cool stuff going on this weekend. And we'll go ahead and get rolling with the normal Workshop Wednesday program, right? So if you guys have any questions, chuck them out. If you're catching this at a later time, go ahead and drop the questions into the comment section below, and I'll go ahead and get them answered throughout the day and week. So the first one I have is I've got a 2015 Road Glide Duals and Monster Ovals running Power Vision on it. Looking to get a little deeper, throatier sound. Do I need to switch to Pro Pipe or... So again, we'll kind of go over that a little bit. So the Monster series is going to be the quietest series of mufflers that we offer here at Vance Hines. So the Monsters are designed for like long distance cruising, mellow tone, be able to hear your radio, be able to hear your speakers, your intercom, etc. And so the Monster series are going to be a bit quieter than everything else that we offer. So if you want deeper and throatier, there's quite a few options. One, if you want deeper, throatier, louder, I would kind of look towards the high outputs. High outputs are probably one of our more popular slip-ons. Still have that sort of mellow cruise and idle like the Monster series, but they've got a bit more bite to them, particularly when you roll on and off of the throttle. So that would be a good recommendation. If you want something even more aggressive than that, the Torker 450s just came out for your bike. They fit the 16 and earlier touring models. And those are going to be a very nice, very loud option. Took that setup on our 14 Project Limited bike into the dyno last week to film next week's Fuel Pack Pro dyno tuning, make it yours video. And it screamed. It sounded awesome. Part of that's the header. Part of that is the camshafts, the torquers, all that stuff kind of came together and made for a really killer sounding bike. So I'm pretty excited for you guys to catch that one next week. But those would be my two recommendations, I think. It would either be particularly for a deeper sound, I would go either high outputs or the Torque 450s. If you wanted something kind of richer and a little bit deeper but quieter, oversized 450 is also a really, really good choice. Devender Singh asks in the comment section, as I know 2-in-1 exhaust is superior performance-wise, why not others like slip-ons or 2-in-2? Good question. So what ends up happening, 2-in-2, I typically don't recommend um, because there's no collector chamber. They really don't help pull exhaust gases from one cylinder to the other. So basically, the negative pressure in one cylinder helps to pull exhaust gases out from the opposite cylinder. You sort of lose that entirely with a 2-in-2 system. So I typically don't recommend those. They're great for high horsepower, wide open throttle. But they used to call them drag pipes back in the day for a reason. It's because they make power at wide open and not a whole lot elsewhere. So 2-in-2s, as far as performance is concerned, is not typically what I'd recommend. Now, a 2 to 1 to 2, something like a power duals or even slip-ons, are going to do, for the most part, a bit better than a standard like true dual style setup. Dresser duals for the Vance Hines models in our case, being outperformed by the power duals, and then both of those together are outperformed by the Pro Pipe. So typically, if you're looking for power, if that's your number one concern, I would go Pro Pipe. If you're looking for power, but you don't want to sacrifice that sort of dual exhaust symmetric look coming out from under the saddlebags, then I usually would recommend going something like a power duals and then picking a muffler that fits. High outputs being the one that I recommend the most. A bit more performance than the rest of the line. Really, really cool sound. Sort of like old school hot rod kind of noise. Definitely one of our most popular mufflers for a reason. So typically, if you're looking for power, I would recommend 2-in-1 above all else. I would look for a good 2-to-1 to 2 setup with a nice muffler that kind of supports that header. So like power duals high output would be my next recommendation. And then 2-to-2 or true duals style systems, for the most part, are there for looks and sound and not necessarily performance. So I wouldn't really point you in that direction. Glenn Barton Ferret asks, I have the Vance Hines Monster Ovals. Can I change the baffles with more sound? So there is not a replacement baffle for the Monsters. And again, those were designed to be pretty quiet by nature. The only thing I can recommend doing with those would be to take them off, unfortunately, sell them used and get another set of mufflers. You can pull the baffles entirely out of a set of Monster Ovals or rounds or squares or Vs or whatever Monster series you happen to have. The problem is your bottom end goes to hell, and it ends up with this like really fluttery, tinny, empty, hollow kind of sound. So you went from like this nice, deep, rich, mellow tone to like this empty, tinny, ta 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 ta, ta kind of thing, almost like a tugboat, bop, 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 bop. And then your power goes south really, really badly on the bottom end. So I would recommend, if you want more noise and a bit more grunt, I would just pull the monsters off entirely. The monster ovals being in your case there, Glenn, and then I would go back to sort of something like I mentioned with Devender or this gentleman with the Row Glide, is I would recommend high outputs or torquers. Now, if you want something that has a little bit less bite than the torquers, I would look towards a 4-inch lubricord. That would be either our Eliminators or twin slash rounds, or Daytonas for the time being. Depresso Peoples says, hold up, my thing just auto scroll. For the third time, what's the best way to get the baffles out of my slip-on torquers? So I think I might have answered this in an earlier question or not. We'll find out. I did a video during the early part of the pandemic, right? Where I had a motorcycle here. I think it was a road glide. Could be wrong, but I had a bike here with a set of Daytona 400s, and I installed a set of quiet baffles here on the floor of my, out on the ground on the driveway in my garage. If you look for it on YouTube, go to the Vance Hines channel, go to the Workshop Wednesday playlist. You should see one that says Daytona 400 quiet baffle install or installation. The method that I outlined there is going to be the easiest and best way to get baffles out of a set of slip-ons. Typically, what you want to do is you'll take the tent bracket, so the part that actually like holds the muffler to the saddlebag support bracket, so that sort of like looks like a tent, right? And you'll want to hit that perpendicular to a hard surface. That will basically allow momentum to carry the baffle and end cap out the bottom. Cup your hand at the bottom, smack it really good on a table. I use a welding table. At the shop, we have some like nice aluminum tables. We've dented one, to be honest, so be careful. That's why I use my welding table here at home. It's, you know, solid 3/16 plate steel. Nothing's gonna hurt it, and I just bing, and it comes right out. So again, check out that video, Daytona 400 quiet baffle install. I do something similar on another set of mufflers on a Fuel Pack Friday video. I believe I installed Power Duels, another set of quiet baffles, and a Fuel Pack FP3. It's a longer video, like 19, 20 minutes. But you should be able to find that one also under the Vance and Hines channel, Fuel Pack Friday playlist under the Fuel Pack FP3, and then there's a couple of ways to go there. So that would be my recommendation. Check out the video, and that is going to be the simplest, easiest way to do it. If you try to do it while it's on the bike, it's going to fight you. You're not going to have a good time, and it's honestly faster and easier to pull the muffler off the motorcycle than it is to deal with it on the bike. Defender says, thanks for answering. Thank you. Jesus Eduardo Contreras Linguinaga asks, new exhaust coming for the Milwaukee 8. Yes, stay tuned. There are new exhausts coming for the Milwaukee 8. Those will be released in January. So stay tuned, a couple more months, and you'll get to check out the latest and greatest from us here at Vance and Hines. Justin Meeser asks, what's the loudest exhaust with a good deep sound? I would say the all-new Torker 450s are going to be the loudest ones we offer. Because of the 4.5-inch can, there's a lot of volume there, and so it brings the overall tone down. So it's nice, deep, very throaty, very aggressive. Those would be the ones that I'd recommend, particularly on the Milwaukee 8. The Milwaukee 8's by nature fairly quiet engines, and so I think you need to give them a little bit extra help to get that sort of like familiarity, that like aggressive tone we're all used to seeing, or hearing rather. And so I would lean towards Torker 450s, definitely on a Milwaukee 8. Again, I just did one in the dyno on that 14 Limited Project bike last week with the Fuel Pack Pro, and that thing sounded really, really good. So it's definitely an awesome option for twin cam motors as well. Even though it was designed specifically for the Milwaukee 8, the transference over to the twin cam still sounds deep, very rich, very aggressive and bitey. A little too aggressive for my taste to cruise around with every day, but man, it sounds mean. It sounds really good. Brandon says, can't wait to get our shipment of the Yamaha YXZ 1000 exhausts. Cool. Thank you for ordering one of those. Justin Meeser says, thinking about the big radius 2-2 for my Lowrider S. 2-2 is a good choice. Just keep in mind it is a 2-2 system, so like I said, bottom end torque will be lacking a teensy bit, much like the short shot staggered. And so if you want something that's got a bit more grunt to it, a little bit more bottom end, I'd actually recommend the big shot staggered if you haven't looked at those yet. They're basically longer short shots with a hidden collector chamber, so they sort of function as a 2-1-2. Really, really cool choice, kind of that middle ground if you're not willing to like full commit 2-1 to the pro pipe. So big radius 2-2 is going to be an awesome choice. It's really a really, really cool like aesthetic exhaust. But if you're looking for a bit more power, and since you've got a Lowrider S, I assume that's the case, I would take a look at something like the Big Shot Staggered, which is kind of that middle ground between performance and aesthetics, I feel. Glenn says, thanks, think I'll keep what I have. Yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, there's really nothing you can do to make the Monster series all that much louder, because they were designed and engineered to be the quietest option that we have. Devender says, question 2, do I recommend fuel additive with normal petrol? No, I don't typically. I've seen a lot of, you know, like octane boosters and fuel system cleaners and things that supposedly like promote performance, and I haven't personally played too much with it. But the reality is that bumping octane, while it can give you performance, it's really designed as a deterrent for pre-ignition in most motors. So if you think of like your standard fuel pump, you come up to it and you've got like 87, 91, 93 octane, or in California here, 87, 89, 91. And really the increased octane really is only for increased resistance to detonation or pre-ignition. So the idea is that if you have a higher compression, higher performance motor, then you will need to run a higher octane level than something that's standard. So if you think of it like, you know, my wife's Mazda 5 minivan takes 87, my Acura takes 91, and that's because the Acura, the V6 I've got in that car, requires a higher level of resistance to detonation because it's a higher compression motor. So Harley Davidsons are very similar, where they prefer 91 or above, 91, 93. Going anything above that, you're kind of just pouring money down your gas tank for not a whole lot of added benefit. At least that's been my experience. So I would recommend not doing that unless you feel the need to. Again, I haven't done a whole lot of like back-to-back dyno testing with this sort of thing, so don't 100% take my word for it. But I've always sort of viewed that stuff as unnecessary, kind of snake oily. Um, yeah. Depressed says, may have missed it. Pull the baffle out, smack it on something hard. Yeah, so to pull the baffle out, you basically take the tent bracket and wham, hit it on a table. Again, cup your hand under and into the muffler. If I didn't have water in my water bottle, I'd tip it out and show you. Otherwise, I would just trench myself. And then smack that tent bracket across the hard surface, and it'll basically bring the baffle assembly and out along with the end cap. So a really cool way to do it. Again, go to the YouTube Vance Hines channel. Go to Workshop Wednesdays, Daytona 400s, quiet baffle install. And I outlined the process in that video pretty well. And it's going to be the easiest way to get those things out. Justin says, cool, check that out. Awesome. Yeah, I think that'd be a good fit for the Lowrider S. It's sort of the best of both worlds where you get that sort of like 2-to-2 look, but you've got the collector chamber, so you're going to pick up the bottom end quite a bit, especially in something like a Lowrider S where, you know, the whole point of that bike is to have a really good handling performance motorcycle. That would definitely be my recommendation. Let's see what else we got. So we got a couple more minutes here to go. Gonna pull something from last week. Where let's see, are the Eliminator 300s comparable to Straightshots in sound and open baffles? So let's dissect that a little bit. So the Eliminator 300s have a perforated core baffle that is fiber wrap, whereas the Straightshots are louver cored throughout. And so what's going to happen is the Straightshots are going to have like more of that aggressive, bitey kind of sound, more of what you think of when you think of a Harley. And the Eliminator 300s are going to be a bit more toned down, a little warmer, a little richer, more refined type sound. So my recommendation, if you have a Milwaukee 8, say like a Softail, the Eliminator 300s are going to be sort of that warmer, richer, but still aggressive tone. If you want to have something that's more akin to the straight shots you had on your old bike, then I would recommend looking at the twin slash rounds. Again, it's a similar baffle type construction compared to the straight shot slip-ons. So those are going to be sort of the most closely resembling sounding mufflers that we offer for like a Milwaukee 8 slip-on Softail. Outside of that, I would go with the Eliminator 300 just because I personally prefer the look of it. I like the sound of it a little bit better. I think that it does cost a little bit more, yeah, but I think what you get out of it is well worthwhile. So that's it. We are almost caught up with questions. I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left over from last week. And they are longer questions that I could talk about for about 10, 20 minutes. So rather than make this a 30, 40-minute video, we'll just cut it here at about 20 minutes. Thank you guys for joining me on another Workshop Wednesday. Tune in next week. If you have any questions, chuck them down into the comment section below. I'll get them answered throughout the day and on hopefully next week or the week thereafter show. And again, if you guys are hanging around this weekend, Friday on Facebook Live here at 4:45 Pacific Standard Time, we will have the practice runs for the Drag Specialties King of the Baggers race at Laguna Seca. And it'll also be on Moto America Live. If you want to catch the actual race on Saturday, sign up for the Moto America Live weekend event. It is $9.99. Really, really sweet deal there to go ahead and check out this King of the Baggers race. And you should see more photos of the bikes coming. If you already got the newsletter from us, go ahead and take a look at it. There's some really, really cool shots in there. Otherwise, we'll have them out on social media in the next couple days. And we'll go from there. Oh, hold on. Don Atkins asks, how much difference in DCAT stock header pipes versus dresser duals? So the DCAT OEM header is still a 2-to-1-to-2 compared to the dresser duals. Dresser duals are going to have more top end, but you're going to lose a bit on the bottom end compared to even the DCAT OEM header. So depending on what you're looking for, you'll basically get a little bit better sound as far as like that lopey kind of idle out of a dresser duals. But if you're looking for performance, the OEM DCAT's actually not too bad performance-wise. So that would be my recommendation. If you want the sound and the look, go dresser duals. If you don't really care about that and you're just looking at numbers, then the OEM DCAT is fine. If you want an upgrade to that, go ahead, Power Tools. You want another upgrade to that, Pro Pipe. So again, thanks everybody, and we'll catch you guys next week.